I just wrote a book on AI. The book is my columns and posts that I've written, and then I did like, I don't know, 60 chapters. So, but at the end, what I did is I actually took AI and said, okay, show me where I have repetitive content. Show me where I'm speaking too much, like I'm too verbose. And the editing it took about 6 hours. I did 6 hours of editing, asking those kind of questions that would have taken an editor probably a couple of months. So it's kind of crazy. So I'm just finding that it's just whatever you're doing.
Welcome back to the High Ticket Systems podcast. Everyone, please welcome the one and only Mr. Bob Pearson. Bob, how you doing today, my friend?
Jordan, good to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're really excited to have you. Word on the street is that you are an absolute legend in the marketing space. So I cannot wait to dive into it.
Who knows if that's true, but I still look forward to the conversation.
Likewise, same on my end. Same on my end. Let's see. For those of us that necessarily don't know the brand or don't know the company, can you give us a high-level overview of kind of like what you and the company do, or what you do specifically?
Yeah, I mean, where I spend my time is usually helping people think through concepts that can lead to new ideas, new services, new models, a way to articulate a story more effectively. So I've been like that really my whole career, is just looking at like how do you I guess appropriately disrupt the way we normally did something, and that could be something as simple as how do we position a company differently, but it could be something like now with AI is how do you use AI to get advantage in how you grow a firm, or it could be something like when I go back to Dell days where we just put in place Idea Storm as a way to get ideas directly from customers and bring them right into engineering and development. So I think when you hear that people can't do something, I immediately think of, well, how can you do it? And then the journey goes from there. And that's probably the signature, I would say.
I like that mindset and that framework there. How can we do it? Let me ask you this question here. I have a very similar mindset when it comes to optimizing things, making everything better. Do you find yourself, because I definitely find myself doing this, where I'm never really satisfied. You asked
Right.
how can we disrupt the market, ethically and morally. I want to do the same thing. However, I'm never satisfied with the way I'm disrupting the market, if that makes sense. I'm always looking for
I think
optimization.
I think that's healthy. I think if you do anything in, let's say, marketing or just any kind of workflow, and you're saying, "Oh, I nailed it, I'm good," I don't know that that's ever true, right? It means that you did the best you could at that moment, but then you get to reflect on it, and you think, I could change that, I could change this. So I think the people who are perpetually dissatisfied, but in a healthy way, they innovate more. They're more successful.
But is there a fine line though? Because I feel like I kind of drive myself crazy.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. You can drive it. You can obsess over things, and maybe you have to also, I think, know when you've gone as far as you're capable of going, or it's the timing of, like, say, the launch of a product where you're like, hey, we just don't have more time. We're going to go with the best we have right now.
Mm. On that note, do you think setting deadlines helps with the, I don't know, perpetual loop of this has to be better, this could be better?
It does. I think there's a difference between a deadline and a timeline. So, like a deadline, like say, hey, Jordan, we need to get this done in 2 weeks. Got it. It focuses both of us. But the timeline is we don't always benefit from someone saying, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? How are you doing today? And why do I say that? I say that because when you think about how people are often creative, they're often processing things in their head for a little while, and they may be like really running through it, and then on that Sunday or Monday before it's due, they crank, and it comes out. So they have been thinking about it, but they don't do it in the traditional step 1, 2, 3, 4 to 47.
I'm not a deadline kind of guy, to be quite frank with you. Obviously, there's certain deadlines the company has to hit, right? When it comes to onboarding clients and making sure that they're good to go. But when it comes to the creative process, I actually think as a creative individual, you shoot yourself in the foot by giving yourself deadlines. I think like you said, it takes time to
Right.
process,
Right.
conceptualize, and then move forward from there.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, if you're thinking creatively and you have a deadline, it does put you into, you're processing it in your head. and that's extremely valuable. And it just that gets undervalued a lot of times because we always
Yes.
want to see tangible stuff, each step of the way.
Yeah. You can't, like you said, it's tangible, right? You can't, I guess let's just look at close rates as an example. That is a tangible thing.
Yeah,
I had 10 people on the calendar this week. I closed four of them. That's a rock star week as an
did it or
example.
you didn't do it, right?
But when it comes to, man, I really feel like my idea came such a farther away than how it was last week or the week prior. It's like, yeah, but there's still nothing I can hold. It's just a freaking idea. So I
Right.
definitely know what you mean there.
But it's also, I think, with closing, like I was a sales rep for a while early in my career, and you think of like the closing. I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and you think like sometimes you could close pretty easily, and you have to also push yourself to say, but what are the ones that are really worth it, but are going to be really hard? And am I going after those as well? And like I remember there was a hospital in Sarasota, Florida, that I was told not to even go near because it just wouldn't. There's no way I could ever turn it into a customer. And so of course I spent a lot of time focusing on how to do that, and we eventually became a great customer. But it was
Nice.
it was just really from listening to them and having the patience to say, I know something's not going to happen like this week. It might not even happen this month, but it's going to happen. And I think there's always like the separation of the easy ones, and then the ones that just take more time.
I love a good challenge. And I think
Yeah.
I wasn't always this way, but later in life, later in my adulthood, I realized we grow significantly more through challenges,
Yes.
right? The days where you don't feel like getting up and working really hard or going to the gym for me personally, or the days where you actually feel those are the days that count. Those are the days that matter because you learn, you grow from that instance opposed to, yeah, I definitely feel like going today, or I definitely want to approach that specific account to land a sale. But if it's a challenging account, if it's a challenge within the business, I feel like I look at that with a growth mindset and want to attack that more so than
I
avoid it.
agree. Yeah, because I mean, Jordan, when you think about it, I often ask people like, "Did you play a sport growing up?" And if they didn't, okay, did you play a musical instrument or something where you had to practice all the time? And then when people think about that, they're like, "You're right. I practiced even when I didn't want to." And I had a certain level of excellence I wanted to get to, and so it's like, well, it's not any different in business. It's not like, well, I did a lot of meetings today, so I'm good. Like, who cares? Right? Is did you put points on the board? Did you practice correctly? Are you improving? And if you have that mindset in business, you're going to do fine.
Absolutely agree. Before you and I hit record, we were talking about how in between calls, we have a Claude code working in the background with
Yeah,
different skills.
exactly.
Is it okay if you give us like just one project that you and the company are working on?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to put it up because all the stuff I do
Oh,
is
no,
for
no,
clients.
not that.
But it's I mean, I'll give you an easy example. It's like someone will say like, hey, we need to track what this regulatory authority is doing. Let's say take like the Food and Drug Administration, because we want to know what's going on in the marketplace. Well, my attitude is to say, well, why don't we actually look at all of the health authorities on the federal level, and then eventually on the state level, so we can understand if there's anything happening that might be important to us for, let's say, a medical treatment, right? So that's the kind of thing you're like, okay, Claude, I need to know all the different health groups that would have information. I know I need to break it into legislative, regulatory, and things like that. I need to figure out which states are the bellwethers, and so that's running, right? So you get that running, and then you're doing a call, and you're coming back and looking at it and going, yeah, it's about right. Give it 3 or 4 more instructions, let it run again during another call, and by the end of the hour or two, you've got this incredible intelligence digest, that you now have a template of that you can use over and over. So I would say every day I'm doing something like that. It's just different topics, and
Right.
just kind of. I think one thing I'm learning is like you're as AI should be a mirror of our own intelligence.
Yes.
So if AI is a mirror of our intelligence, we should take the time to say what questions will really push AI to be at its best. And then when we look at what it gives us, it's no different than like a really smart researcher. Did it really give us what we wanted? So let's push it again and push it again and push it again. And if we keep doing that, we end up with a great product. or a great, template.
On the topic of pushing I learned this from one of the AI gurus I listen to on YouTube. But he says after you finish a project or a run, right, and it looks successful, like this is good, high quality
Yeah.
work, good job, right? High five. Ask AI, how can you do this faster and cheaper without
Yes.
losing quality? And I think
Yes.
that's really important for Claude Code because of tokens, right? If you go over your token limit, you have to pay more. The more tokens you use, the worse it becomes. Stuff like that,
Yes.
right? So, and it's surprising. It's surprising where I thought a finished project, looked really really good, and then I would ask it those questions. I'm like, damn, this is actually a little bit better, and it did it faster, and it saved me money. Let's
Right.
do it again. You
Right.
know, like you said, it's pushing AI. It's pushing AI.
Yeah,
How far?
exactly. And that's a very clear concept, but something I think people are still getting their head around because we've been anesthetized by Google. So we just put in Word or a couple phrases, and then we see what happens, and then maybe we search again if we don't like it. We're here. It's like no, no, no. We're now asking strategic questions, and we're talking. We're actually in many cases just using our voice to just say, here's what I want. So it's really like you're talking to the smartest person and that's the other thing I think that we have to become better at is we're so used to, and I am so used to writing, and yet voice is going to be driving most AI in the future. So our ability to do that better sooner is in our best interest.
For anyone listening that is currently not using a voice to type software that Bob here's referring to, just look into one. I use Whisperflow. I literally hold down FN on my freaking Mac and I say what I want like a human and it listens and it does the work. You
Right.
can use it for email, Slack, text messages, your Google, obviously AI. So, yes, what to piggyback off what you're saying, AI is leaning definitely towards that way. And I think the developers also know of like OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, or
Yeah.
Anthropic, Claude, you know.
Well, it's interesting. You can see a lot of these, I guess, trends before they become trends, like popular trends. Like so, if you were looking at search over the last 5 years, you could see that it was very clearly becoming to a point where more than half of people worldwide were searching in Google by voice. So then, as AI came on, it was just a natural that it would just happen pretty quickly. And then like Whisper Flow is a great tool. And I think the other thing too is you hear from people is always people always want to ask what tool to use, and there's a couple that are worth mentioning. Main thing I say is here's a couple, but the key thing is practice. Just go out and hack around and try.
Exactly. There's so many different companies. Like, no offense to these types of companies. I think if there's competition, it's a good thing because that means
Right.
people want it, good product. But yeah, there's definitely a couple of tools that are out there in the marketplace right now that are doing the thing that you want to get done. Just play with them all. Which one's your
Right.
favorite? Which one's simpler to use, etc. You know, there's no one size fits all for all of the
Exactly.
scopes that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Bob, I do have a question, my friend. So, getting back to destructive marketing ethically and morally, can you give us an example on what that would look like, or maybe a recent example you actually used on behalf of one of your clients?
Yeah. You're thinking of, I write about ethics and morals. So you thinking along those lines?
No, just like the marketing strategy that you use to change the way the CEO or the CMO thought about their own
So I'll give you
company.
I'll give you an easy one for a CEO. So if most, not all, but many CEOs are very public, so they're out speaking and they're at investor conferences and they're doing all things like that. So if you set up build a template, which I have, you can actually see the tendencies of that person. So you can see what they normally say, how they give anecdotes, how many examples they tend to give, how long they speak, how long our sentences are, whatever you want to know. And so when you do that, you now have a template to say, okay, if I'm going to write a speech or I'm going to do a LinkedIn post or I'm going to do anything for this person, I'm going to put it against this filter to make sure that it actually is in their voice. And getting the voice of someone right has been a dilemma for anyone who writes for executives for the last gazillion years. Probably since as soon as we knew how to do it, it's been a problem. But now you can see it. And the other thing too is you can also see by people who are publicly facing how well are they aligning with the actual messages of the company they represent to move that narrative forward. So most of the time, it's like they're pretty good, but pretty good and great are two different things. So what can you do to improve a little bit? How do you use a better anecdote? How do you explain the technology a little better? And those are things that I'm finding are like, man, they're quick wins. They're very easy to do, but you got to be know what you're looking for to get that.
No, absolutely. When you are working with, was that just one example, or would you say
That's
that
come
is
up a number of times. Yeah, a number of
okay?
times. But I
For
don't.
sure.
The examples I don't like to give are like the specifics to a company.
Totally understandable as
Yeah.
well. I guess I would just love more clarity on the services that you and the company provide, if that question made sense at all.
Yeah, I mean it's generally you think about it from a marketing or communication standpoint, it's going to be how do you build new capabilities and new services with AI, or how do you accelerate what we already have, or how do we get a better insights into the marketplace, or how do we provide better intelligence to those we serve. So it's in many you could argue that that's been going on forever, right? So that's not new, but it is accelerated greatly and actually, quite frankly, a lot more precise because of AI. And
Gotcha.
that's so think of me more as someone who gets generally more involved in that and helping a story become more powerful or protect the company, because crisis and issues management is something that benefits greatly from AI and how you can protect the company.
Gotcha. No, thanks for the clarity there. Okay. So we're effectively altering or improving how companies tell their story, tell the story of the company, like the product that they're selling,
Yeah.
like you said, articulate themselves more clearly. Got it. Okay, so more so on the
And
communication side.
if you're doing that well, which a lot of companies are, you're also setting yourself up for how it gets more and more personal, how we become more and more focused on micro segments of a audience, how we actually identify more of who the micro influencers are, not just the big content creators. So the more we're utilizing AI and analytics, because analytics is that great cousin of AI, we can really see exactly where to focus so our story is really hitting the right people and is adjusting to each segment. And that is something that I think marketers have wanted to do forever, and have always tried, but it's now a heck of a lot easier to do that.
Right, right. And like segmenting data or at least looking at analytics has always been a nightmare for me personally, just because
Yeah.
I'm more of the creative kind of guy, simply put. But with AI, I can just take a spreadsheet as an example, or take the analytics and say, hey, this is what's going on. How can we improve? And it's like, yep, here's what this means. Here's what to do next. Execute it. I'm like, love you, dude. Thanks. You know?
The other thing, Jordan, which I think is, I think we've known this for a while, but it's getting easier and easier to do, is let's say we're trying to reach people related to Harley Davidson motorcycles, right? Okay, so we know the people that will buy the motorcycles, but maybe we do. Let's say we know them really well. What else do we know about them? What do they do when they're not on their motorcycle or not thinking about that? Are they family people? Do they go to certain music festivals? Do they really dig these kind of sports? And understanding holistically your customer actually allows you to get more creative in terms of how you reach them. So that is something that we kind of knew forever, but it was very hard to do that, and it was a lot more research and a lot more money, so people didn't do it. Well, now it's getting a lot easier to pull that information.
Mm. This person who wrote this purple book back here, he talks about whenever he was scaling up his gym consulting firm.
Yeah,
It was a done for you agency on the back of a lot of consulting, um, I guess, practices, like consulting as well. Man, words are hard sometimes. Anyways, he said whenever he was creating copy, whether it was email, advertisements, webinars, VSLs, whatever, he would do his absolute best to kind of segment everything. And in this one specific segment, he would go deep, like really deep, and as to why this person would want his gym consulting services.
yes,
And he did that for like 150 different angles or 150 different like reasons as to why someone would want to join. And it's going back to what you said. How is this gym owner outside of running the gym? Or how is this Harley Davidson bike rider? How do they act? What are their
Yeah.
values? What do they like to do outside of riding their freaking chopper? And I
So you're
think that's
getting at
very
something that's really, I think it's a very important point when you're trying to reach an audience. It's pretty easy to have a lot of money and to just try to reach a lot of people. And I don't mean to be facetious about that, but it's easier to do that. But when you're going to get into very specific, like let's take in healthcare, you want 1,000 people to enter a clinical trial for a very significant disease. Well, you've got to reach only 1,000 people in a country of 330 million, figure out where they are, see it, make sure that they actually meet the protocol for that trial, that they'd be willing to actually enter it and actually commit to giving back to society by being part of that trial. Right? That's really intense personalization in order to get people in the mode to consider that.
no, absolutely.
And it's kind of like the gym. Like you're not trying to get everyone to go to the gym. You want certain people to go, and if you're getting the right people to go, that meet the theme of this particular fitness center, they're more likely to talk to their friends, and you're more likely to get the audience in there that you really want, versus just throwing out ads and hoping that people come in, and God knows who comes in.
Yeah, messaging is vitally important. I think that goes for all businesses, really.
Yeah,
But particularly in the like on Facebook ads, as an example, if you're trying to articulate a really well written or well said video message, like the messaging is the targeting nowadays. Same, I
right.
mean, I guess same thing for like LinkedIn outreach or email outreach. Messaging is really, really important.
Yes. Yeah, it's not, and I always, algorithms taught us this a long time ago, reach and relevance, right?
Mm.
So reaching people, it's nothing wrong with it, but it's not the answer. You have to be reaching them and be relevant to them. And if you're relevant to them, then people are more likely to comment, like, share, do all these things. And you can see it. You can see which brands are achieving relevancy.
No, absolutely. How I'm curious to know how else are you utilizing AI, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I mean, look, I just wrote a book on AI, right?
Nice.
So the book is my columns and posts that I've written, and then I did, like, I don't know, 60 chapters, right? So, but at the end, what I did is I actually took AI and said, okay, show me where I have repetitive content. Show me where I'm speaking too much, like I'm too verbose. And the editing it took about 6 hours. I did 6 hours of editing, asking those kind of questions that would have taken an editor probably a couple of months, right? So it's kind of crazy. So I'm just finding that it's just whatever you're doing, you know.
I feel like there's really no limitation on AI, at least that I found. The limitation is the imagination of the user.
Exactly, and so gets back to us as humans, right? So we're so used to asking questions in an incremental way. So so like, hey, can we do a little more of this, or what if we
Nice.
went to this channel, which is different than saying, okay, I have a gym, fitness gym, and I want to build a national chain, and I want to, we're thinking really big, and then we're asking AI to help us with that approach. So what I'm finding is I often will say, let's think of the solution that you really truly want, and then we'll work backwards from there. And not that long ago, meaning a couple of years ago, we might have said, okay, let's not get too ambitious up front. Yeah. But now we can see that vision, and then we can work towards that and say, okay, we're here today. This is the big vision. If we were really successful, how are we going to collapse the timing to get there? And I
No,
think that's a wonderful thing for thinking creatively.
100%, 100%. I don't know. People have said this. I don't know if I quite believe them, or maybe my belief system doesn't want to believe what I'm about to say. But Anthropic and OpenAI are essentially saying that there will be a person that creates a $1 billion company with a B
Yeah.
using just one person. Like
Yeah.
I'm good on earning $1 billion, right? Like I'm honestly okay.
Yeah.
But simple fact that AI is that powerful to where one person can create that much equity within an organization.
There's a
Okay.
lot of stuff in there in that, I mean, they throw that stuff out and it gets us all talking about it, right? So I do think there's a lot to be said for this, what I call the Silicon Valley ethos of N plus one. So if like you start a company, then your instinct is to say, tell me why I need one more person. And then, because AI can do this. Okay, now another person. So we're thinking more thoroughly about how we add people. That's interesting. When you look at the we maybe never won't need any people for a company. That's a little bit out there right now. But what we can say is like there, it makes sense that agents would actually understand what we do, and middle management may change in how we do things. So I remember listening to Melissa Valentine out in Stanford at the Human Centered AI building that they have, the curriculum. And that's one of the things she was touching on is like the way that organizations are structured is going to evolve because, you think about it, everyone in the next layer, the next layer is like retaining information and only they have the information. But with agents, all that starts to break down. And then the junior person has quite a bit of information. And then you're like, okay, now what's the role of the manager now? So still need them, but it's changing. And we may need less managers and more people doing work. Like not that managers aren't doing work, but it's like more people who are like creating and things like that. So it's going to change, but it will take, I bet, 10 years. Because the one thing we can always count on is no matter how fast technology goes, humans will go slower, and business will watch it and go at the pace it thinks it should. Government will go slower than that, and and we'll get there. We'll get there, but it will be, think of it like this, Jordan. Human genome mapped in the early '90s, right? We're now seeing the benefits of it with gene therapies in 2026. Where you think of like the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, that plan is written in 1989, and it wasn't until 1998 that we have Google, and it wasn't until '04 that we had Facebook, and we're still innovating. So it's like it just takes a while for things to really take their course.
Getting back to like middle level managers, I've never actually thought about that when it comes to, yeah, think about the responsibilities of a
Yeah,
mid level manager. They have more knowledge than the employees. They are trained up more on the business and how things actually operate from a SOP standpoint. But if AI can retain all that information and an employee bottom level can just ask AI, hey, how do I do XYZ? Is this correct? Typically AI can just say that opposed to asking the manager. That does
absolutely. Yeah, and
make
it's you think of like training when you do training. Like training today is still go online, you do a course, or you show up in person and there's a course. And it's always a defined time period. But the reality is, training should follow the person based on how you're evolving in your career, and then the training should change. So you're constantly being pushed to be trained with the right materials, so you evolve, and you still have the stuff you have to do, like cybersecurity and all that. But you could actually be training people in real time. So that's an example. Or one of the things I wrote about in my book was like an SAP transformation. So you're putting in this massive piece of software into a company, and there's like roughly 1,200 decision points in an SAP transformation. So now you would be looking at everyone is working on it in every country in the world, and you'd say, okay, 1,200 decision points. What are the questions and answers for each decision point? And then how do we actually share that with everyone in their language of choice? So we accelerate the process of doing this, and maybe we cut a year off a 3-year project.
that. Yeah,
So
I
there's
like
all kinds of things we can do if we're willing to just think differently.
I like that. I'm clueless. What's an SAP?
Oh, just software, just software that's coming into a company to manage financials and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, a 60 chapter book, is that 60 chapters after AI had reduced the redundancy?
No, I did. The initial book was probably too long, because I
Okay.
was just I just let it rip. It was all just me writing, on Saturdays and Sundays and all that. And then I'm like, okay, I know this is too long, and I gotta focus it. So, but one thing when you write a book, business book, is you do have some things that are repetitive. even if you try not to. So like getting those to be streamlined, that was easy. AI, that's like 10 minutes, you know,
Right,
but
right.
things like that.
I mean, with a book, even any book, with a business book specifically, I feel like chapters build upon each other as the book goes, right? So
Yes.
you need to reference previous chapters. If you just learned this technique here, now we're advancing the
Yes. You want
technique
the
for
flow to be right. Exactly.
exactly, exactly.
And that sounds easy. Like people say, oh yeah, just outline it. It's like, okay, well, once you write it and you have 50 chapters, you're like, okay, is this actually the right order? And you can drive yourself insane on that. So you actually need someone, which is an editor. I did have an editor too, but you have an editor plus AI, and you're in pretty good shape.
No, for sure. I've definitely thought about writing a book for what I do specifically, which is like cold
Yeah, you're picking
email
up all these insights. You should for everyone.
and in B2B outreach. Yeah, it would be a great, sure, lead magnet. I guess it kind of depends on who you are as a person. Like if the goal really is to just give value away, then yeah, you can definitely write a book. Or
Right.
you can take that value, your mechanism, your philosophy, write a book, and then just distribute it as like a some form of like lead
It's a
magnet, if
good,
that makes
Jordan,
sense.
it's a good question when you write a book to ask, why are you writing the book? Right? It really is. And I've talked to a lot of people who are become first, second time authors. This is my sixth book that The Compass, and so for me personally, I feel like I have something to share that could actually teach people, right? So that's the driver, and I don't care if anyone gets the book for free or pays or whatever. It's just I want this out there, right? But other people are doing it maybe because it supports the business that they're running or something. That's fine too. Or it could be that they just have had an awesome career and they just want to kind of almost do like a memoir. That's fine too. So but it's kind of knowing why you're doing something. I think is key when
No,
you're
for
writing.
sure. Absolutely. For me,
You mean maybe another 5, 10 years and you do it. It doesn't have to be
right,
today, right?
right. I guess thinking like the purpose behind it, like would I do something? Maybe this is how I'm wired, and this is unhealthy, but like, and maybe my cup needs to be more full in order to just give away knowledge for free because I want to give it away for free. But I tend to move with a money driven intention. So if
Right.
I'm going to do something, the underlying question is how can the company benefit financially? Like, is it going
Mhm.
to move the ball forward financially for the company? And if the answer is no, I probably don't do it. Is that unhealthy? I don't know. Is it how I'm wired? 100%.
We live in a
So,
capitalist society, so I think nothing wrong with that. Right.
right, we do. And I guess I don't even know what the frick I'm talking about right now.
I think to me it's also similar to networking and all that. Like Aaron Strout just wrote a book called Wired for Purpose, right? And he'd be a great guest, by the way. And it's all about building your network and giving back and just doing whatever it takes to help other people. And then of course he gets that back in so many different opportunities over time. But his instinct is always to help first. And I think Aaron sets a really good precedent there. I try to do my version of that. It's like just help other people, be that person, and generally good things come your way.
Yeah, yes, 100% yes. And I maybe I think the same way. Like to my core, I do want to help the world. I do want to help other people, sure, create financial success for their life. I do want to give gems and knowledge and strategies away 100%. And I also think while I'm doing that, the other purpose of doing that is so value can come back to me.
Yeah,
Maybe I should just remove
it's
the
having it's
reciprocity.
having the patience to not expect it to come back in a linear way.
Maybe that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, like you spoke to someone, so therefore something should happen tomorrow. I think it's like you just lead that kind of life, like just like what you're saying, and you'll get the goodness coming back.
No, for sure. Okay, back to moving on past that.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Bob, for that. What is looking back over your career? What is one thing you wish your younger self knew about operating a business or marketing specifically in communications?
Well, one thing I did learn when I was 22, and I feel blessed to learn it, although at the time I didn't realize it was that important. Um, I got a chance to meet with Dick Loyne, who was at the time the CEO, and at that time he was chairman of Commerce. And so he was at the end of his career, and I went to meet him and said, Mr. Loyne, what's one of the things that I should always do? And I thought he'd tell me, like, make sure you exercise a lot, or read these 5 books, or take this seminar, or go to Harvard, or. And he said, Bob, the most important thing you can do is to protect your reputation, because no one will do it for you. And I walked out and I thought, I was expecting something else. But then as the years went by, I thought that was the best piece of wisdom I ever received, from the business standpoint. And it's true. And we all look out for our own reputations. There's no reason anyone else would look out for it ourselves. And we have to protect it. So you have to always be doing the right thing, always be thinking like that. So that's one. I think I actually, if I could go back and do one thing, I probably would have joined the military for 4, 5, 6 years. I teach in the government and have for years. I love the people who give back to our country, and I do give back to them. But I think that would have been a cool thing to do. An important thing to do, rather, not necessarily cool. But that was it. I don't really live with regrets.
For sure, for sure. I do my best not to either. Definitely have a lot of respect for military men and women out there.
Yeah,
A bunch of my family members have been in the military. I, salute them. I'm not doing that for sure. Not because we're not getting into this, but just
you just
tons.
be supportive, and that's okay. That's
Yes,
enough.
yes, tons
Yeah.
of respect for the people that do. Um, looking forward over the next 12, 24 months, with AI, with what you and the company are doing today, I guess what are some things that you're looking forward to most with AI and how you can adapt that within the company?
One thing is something that it's not me doing it, but it's the more that I'm associating with people who want to try to use AI, which I am. That's exciting, because as they learn how to use it, it means we can all up our game together.
Amen.
Because I don't want to be here in 2 years and go, well, here's how you do a prompt, right? I want to be like thinking of, like, how do we actually build our own CRM,
There you go.
or how do we build a complete operating system with financial metrics using Claude code, and we don't have to go buy something off the shelf. So, but people have to be ready for that. So over the next 12 to 24 months, I'm really looking forward to that kind of, like, little leap where people get more used to it, and then they're willing to experiment more to do that.
Are you referring to more so B2C or B2B that has not adapted or adopted AI?
I get most of my time is spent in B2B,
Same.
and it's really thinking, so if you're building a service firm, you might want to build your own CRM. Like, why not
And
move
that's
away from, right?
that's the piggyback question I had is go high level or HubSpot or any
Yeah, and HubSpot's great, right? And Salesforce is great. I mean, these are great services. But people are often, like, going from spreadsheet to, I'm not sure what to do, and then eventually they get there. Why not build a CRM in that interim spot, and then eventually go to HubSpot or, you know,
well
Salesforce?
that's essentially the question I was going to ask is since we can develop our own CRMs because I actually kind of have a CRM internally.
Yeah,
I use another one as well, but for different shit I use my own. Will that will there still be a need for the
I
top
think so. Yeah, I
yeah?
think so. I think what's going to happen is that we'll be learning how to build CRMs for smaller teams, often in one country. And then as we scale, then we have to go over to folks who are really expert in understanding countries and all the regulations and all the data provisions. And there's so many things that none of us would ever want to know or do, right? But I think as an interim step, it's wonderful to go past Excel and really get fluent. I actually think it could lead to more use of the big CRMs over time as we get more used to it. So I'm not one of those people that believes, like, software is dead. I actually think software is alive and well, and we have a tendency to jump to these conclusions too quickly.
I actually think very similar to you. I think because Claude Code is here or whatever the frick you use, we can enhance the current CRMs that are already top dog, like
Yeah,
HubSpot.
yeah,
Those they
yeah.
can now become even better or any other freaking software that you use, it cannot become better because of these AI tools. So
Right.
I'm in
Exactly.
agreement.
And we'll build. I think we'll build better. I don't even know if we'll call them dashboards, but dashboards that are much more meaningful to what we're doing.
Right.
Everyone always complains about dashboards, and why don't we build them the way we want them? You know,
Absolutely. Bob, such a great conversation, my friend. I do wish we had more time. Where can they find you?
easiest and best place probably is right on LinkedIn. So just Bob Pearson on LinkedIn, and that's where I do a lot of writing. And even if I write other places, I usually put it there. And love to follow people back and do all that. And then I got the book that just came out, The Compass, How to Navigate AI for the Non-Technologist, and that's really meant to help us think, just like we're doing in this podcast. It's like, how do you think about things? And that's I think the most important part of AI for many people.
Absolutely. Is really quick. Release date on the book.
It's out. It's on Amazon.com, so it is out now.
Let's
Yeah,
go. Perfect.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Make sure y'all grab the book. All right. Again, Bob, such a good conversation. I really
Same here,
appreciate it.
Jordan.
Audience, we love you. We'll talk to y'all soon.